Hi, I'm Gary Lenton. I'm the managing editor of Central Penn Business Journal and Lehigh Valley Business. And welcome to PA Biz Conversations, a newsroom web series where we talk to business leaders to get their perspective on the important news topics that affect Pennsylvania business. In this segment, we welcome Ross Kramer, CEO and co-founder of Listrak. Ross holds decades of executive leadership experience, successfully launching and directing 3 technology startups. Ross founded Ross Kramer Personal Computer Solutions in 1993 while a senior in high school. Ross, you're obviously an overachiever. After his graduation from Penn State University, he and his father started the web design and hosting company Vertex, followed by Listrak in 1999. Since then, he has led Listrak from concept to its current position as a leading e-commerce multi-channel digital marketing solutions provider. Ross, welcome to PA Conversations.
Hey Gary, great to be here.
Great to have you. Just do me a favor, and for those who aren't familiar with Listrak, just give them the short bio and what the company does and who it serves.
Sure thing. Listrak is a digital marketing company specifically for retailers, and what we really specialize in is helping retailers coordinate their multi-channel messaging, whether that's messaging social media, whether that's email marketing, mobile marketing, and at the end of the day, we exist to drive revenue for our retail clients, who are primarily mid-market and specialty retailers from $25 million in sales to about $2 million in sales, or $2 billion rather, $2 billion in sales.
2 billion would it be?
Yes.
The question I'm going to ask you today, I'm actually going to be drawing from some of the things that you've written and your perspective on that. I'm going to start with, obviously, with the pandemic and the impact that it's had. Since government aid was announced on April 13th, e-commerce spending at that time since then has more than doubled and is up 47% year over year. As the pandemic fades, as we hope it will fade, how hard will it be to sustain that growth?
Yeah, we have a really neat perspective at Listrak, as about 1,000 of our retail customers have shared their sales data with us. So when the pandemic hit, we could see instantly the impact that had, and not only how consumers were reacting to digital marketing, but what they were transacting on their phones and their desktop computers and that type of thing. And we saw multiple phases. We saw an early phase in mid-March where there was a panic and buying really stopped for non-essential items. We saw essential items, and depending upon where in the spectrum you fall, guns and ammo may be essential or non-essential, but we saw things like guns and ammo spike. We saw toilet paper spike. All the stuff that we've talked about for the past several months, we've seen spikes in that. And then we saw retailers come out and say, hey, it's okay to buy and it's safe to buy from us. And we saw the economic stimulus is kicking in, and we have seen nice sustained growth. One of the things I think that's going to happen with this pandemic, and to speak specifically to your question, is I think some of our behaviors as people on this planet, as consumers, will fundamentally change because of this pandemic. And one of the things that I think has happened is there's an entire cohort of people that may not have shopped online that much, and those people we see are sustaining their shopping online. So while I think it's going to be difficult to comp year over year when when those stimulus checks started to hit, that's going to be very difficult in 2021. I think we are going to have some tailwinds behind us, that people that historically hadn't ever shopped online have started to shop online because they were really forced to. And then I think some of the other folks that maybe had historically shopped online and maybe only shopped online at Amazon, when Amazon said, hey, we're only doing essential, you've got to find your other stuff some other place, what we saw was a whole bunch of new, what we call COVID customers, which are new customers that we had never seen before. And maybe they were buying on the Amazon marketplace, but they were going direct to brands or direct to retailers to buy direct from them. So I think at the end of the day, I think new behaviors will be sustained because of this pandemic.
Where can you tell if these COVID customers, so to speak, are they coming from a particular segment of the buying, like a demographic? Are you seeing any of that? Is it, I don't know, is it older people? Is it younger people? Is it coming from?
Yeah, and we haven't really drilled into that, and that's not really part of the kind of corpus of data that we have at Listrak, is to really understand the demographics or ethnicity or things like that. We would know things like geo, but we don't know age or household income or presence of children or presence of pets or things like that. So
did it show up at all in the type of products they were looking at?
We did see things like seeds, plants. So our home and garden customers really shot up. What we found was people really tended to come back to the things that were comforting to them to do in their homes. Gardening shot way up. Cooking. Our customers we've got a customer called King Arthur Flour. They were having a very difficult time keeping their products on the shelf. So baking, cooking, home gardening. People were tired of sitting on their sofas. Our homewares customers have been going like crazy. Our appliance customers, and I personally had a gas leak in my gas range. I couldn't even get somebody to come out to my house to look at it. Thankfully, the gas company takes these things seriously, and the good folks at Suburban Propane came out last night at 10 p.m. and solved the problem. But I couldn't get an appliance person to come out to, save my home from blowing up.
Well, it's interesting that you can see just from the things you're mentioning that it obviously reflected a plan on people's parts that they're going to be home for a while. They're going to be going out to restaurants a lot less.
Yeah.
And maybe even want to grow some of their own food, since this was all happening in the spring and early summer.
Yeah. Segments that got hurt early on were any of our retail customers where they was really depending upon an occasion. I was talking to some of my fashion customers, apparel customers in the early pandemic, and the conversation there was like, Ross, our business is really around occasion, weddings, dates, festivals, concerts, that type of thing. And we weren't doing any of those things. So there was really no reason to buy a new dress or to buy a new pair of shoes. So what retailers had to do was they had to discount. We saw some really deep discounts happening. And the challenge for a retailer or a brand when they get the discount, thing out, is you're really training your customers in bad behaviors. So this is not a consumer-based video. This is a video based on targeted towards business people. And while as a consumer, discounts, seemingly great as a consumer, from a business perspective, you're training the consumer to expect it the next time. Mm-hmm. So, and, to go back to your original question about comping over next year, what we hope to do is be able to wean customers off of those discounts so they get back to expecting new products. Hopefully the supply chain is back intact next year, where we can get new products out, because that's a big driver of customer demand, is what's new, for example. So just a little about my musings on the current and future pandemic.
I'm glad you got your gas leak fixed. My other question is, you had talked in one of your articles about the importance of for retailers, that trust is a key part of their success.
Yeah.
And as Mike says, what specifically, and how do you do that in a way how do you build trust among customers in a way that doesn't seem phony? I mean, how do you do that in a genuine sense?
Yeah, I think so. two of my customers that I think really stood out in the pandemic were the ones that could authentically tell a story from a founder's perspective or an operator's perspective. One of them is a jewelry wholesaler called Kendra Scott, billion-dollar business based down in Austin, Texas. This gal, Kendra Scott, got started making jewelry, and now her jewelry business is a billion-dollar company. She authentically told a story through the pandemic, through their marketing, through their digital marketing, about, first and foremost, taking care of their employees and making sure that all their employees were continuing to be employed and continue working. There was an aspect of taking care of their customers and making sure that the shopping experience, they really innovated around things like curbside pickup and touchless delivery and that type of stuff. So there's an authentic delivery there. I was just catching up with the founders of Vineyard Vines, Shephanie and Murray, who are still operating their business themselves after 20 plus years. And they did a really nice job of rallying around groups that were really at the front lines, really the first responders that were out there in the front lines, medical professionals that were on the front lines. So telling an authentic story is one of the things that I saw really help to rise over maybe some of the old ways that we would have done it through things like ratings and reviews and that type of stuff. But in the world of one-click ordering on Amazon Marketplace and one-day shipping or same-day shipping, and it feels like everything's coming out of China, and will the product be a quality product? Will it solve my need? Will it suck, when it shows up, will it suck the paint off my house and give my kids a permanent orange afro? What is this there's an opportunity for business people to tell a story. It really goes back to some of the fundamentals that we're trying to teach our kids about language arts and telling an authentic story. That is going to be so important as the world becomes flatter, access to foreign markets becomes even more transparent and fluid, and for consumers to understand that the product that they're going to get is going to be a quality product. It's going to be a safe product for them and their family to use, and ultimately it's going to solve their business problem or solve their personal problem.
You're basically talking about giving a consumer something to believe in.
I think so. I think so. And standing behind it with a quality product at the same time.
Okay. In an article that you wrote for mytotalretail.com that you were kind enough to send me, I'm going to read your own prose to you here. When the pandemic hits, many retailers will have been hit hard. This makes the second half of the year crucial for getting back on track. 2 key steps to increase sales in the smaller window are creating a very targeted marketing spend to reach key audiences and maintaining engagement and sales efforts with loyal customers. Engagement is one of those terms that is really taken off in the digital realm. I dealt with this. I deal with it here in our business and other newspapers I worked at. As we tried to grow, engagement was the key word in every way. My question for you is, what are the various forms of engagement that retailers can get involved in, and why is this important?
I think one of the biggest things that any marketer battles with today is just attention. We're really in a battle for attention. We have an unlimited amount of opportunities, especially through these things, to whether it's news or whether it's social media or whatever piece of digital content you want to engage in. We have an unlimited supply. So this really goes around, I think, segmentation, understanding the core of why your audience wants to engage with you, understanding what are the things that are really important to our audience, and how do we connect with them in an authentic way, with content or products or video or whatever it is that helps to solve problems in their lives. And, you know, life happens, right? So, and especially if you're marketing to large masses, life happens. And sometimes you're in the market for a newspaper. Sometimes you're in the market for a new pair of shoes. Sometimes you're in the market. I see you've got some very nice backyard umbrellas in the picture behind us, Gary. Sometimes you're in the market for a backyard umbrella. And when you're in the market for a backyard umbrella, you're in the market. When you're not, you are not. And when we speak to really being efficient with our marketing mix, is understanding who is engaged for your product at that time, being able to, that you can tell an authentic story about how your product is going to help to solve their problems, and turning up frequency, turning up recency during that time when they are engaged, and then having the ability to pull that back where they're not, because not everybody's going to be in market for the product that you've got at all at all times. So I think that's some of the keys to engagement, or how I would look at it.
Okay. Well, Ross, we're supposed to keep these short and sweet. And again, I want to thank you for joining us today. Pennsylvania Business Conversations is a new product for us, and we're hoping that the conversations like this that we're having with you and some of the other executives we're talking to will help share valuable information for our readers and viewers. But thank you again very much for coming on and talking with me today.
My pleasure. Hope everybody out there is staying safe and keeping it positive.
All right. Thank you, Ross.
You betcha. We'll see ya.
See ya.